So, there is this ideal we all seem to strive for in modern life.
Oh, definitely.
It's like it is that feeling of the thermostat being set perfectly to 72 degrees. Your calendar is color coded, your investments are, on auto deposit.
Groceries delivered right on a highly optimized schedule.
Exactly. You've got your life just totally managed. It feels like you are sitting inside this sealed, perfectly secure, comfortable room. You are safe from the elements.
Yeah, it's a very well-lit, highly predictable room. It's this place where every problem, I mean, even deep emotional pain or existential dread, it's basically viewed as an equation, right? Just waiting to be solved by the right app or the right therapy or some life hack.
Right, right. But then, if you just sit quietly enough, you feel it. A draft. Just a
Yeah.
tiny, freezing whistle of air coming from somewhere under the floorboards, reminding you that your cozy little room is actually built over a massive, dark, completely unmapped cavern.
And that draft,
Yeah,
that sudden, terrifying chill of reality is exactly the atmosphere of the work we are going to explore today.
for sure. Welcome to today's deep dive. We are looking directly at you, the listener, and asking you to maybe step out of that comfortable room for a little bit.
Just for a bit.
Yeah. Our topic today is a really fascinating 2026 book by the philosopher Boris Kriger. It's called The Prisoner of Free Will, Dostoevsky and the Philosophy of the Wounded Soul.
It's a heavy title.
It really is. And our mission here is to explore why Krieger argues that Fyodor Dostoevsky isn't just, dense historical literature that you analyze in a university hall.
Right.
He is actually a vital, urgent survival guide for when our tidy, comfortable lives inevitably break down.
Which is a pretty bold claim because Dostoevsky is not exactly known for his comforting, soothing prose.
No, absolutely not. I mean, I have to admit, picking up Dostoevsky can feel like really heavy, intimidating homework. It's hundreds of pages of Russian names and snow and just existential dread.
Guns of Dread, yeah.
But Krieger's book approaches it a bit differently. It's framed almost as a confession from a reader who actively resisted Dostoevsky's sheer intensity for years. Like, Krieger says he wanted a more proportional view of life, something manageable, before finally just surrendering to the absolute truth of Dostoevsky's worldview.
It's quite a journey.
It is. Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because to understand why Dostoevsky writes like the world is constantly on the brink of ending, we really need to look at what happened to him in his 20s, right?
We really do. You just cannot separate the philosophy from the man.
Krieger refers to it as the Petersburg Draft.
Okay, what does that mean?
Well, to understand Dostoevsky's complete rejection of the comfortable room, you really have to understand the defining trauma of his life. So, as a young man, he was arrested in St. Petersburg for discussing forbidden utopian political ideas.
Right.
And after months in prison, he was taken out into a public square and subjected to what we now know was a mock execution.
But, and this is the crazy part, he didn't know it was a mock execution at the time.
He had absolutely no idea. He was literally standing before a firing squad in the freezing cold. I mean, the guns were loaded, the soldiers aimed, the priest even offered the cross for the condemned to kiss.
Wow.
Yeah, they were tying them to the posts. Dostoevsky calculated he had roughly 3 minutes left to live.
3 minutes.
3 minutes. And then at the absolute last possible second, a messenger galloped into the square with a pardon from the Tsar. The execution was called off, and he was sent to a Siberian prison camp instead.
Just hold on a second. I cannot even fathom the neurological whiplash of that.
It's unimaginable.
To go from totally accepting your annihilation, literally counting down your final seconds, to suddenly being told you get to keep breathing, but, oh, by the way, you're going to a labor camp.
Right, it permanently alters your frequency. Krieger points out that that single morning just completely stripped away all of Dostoevsky's abstract, polite, political illusions.
Because none of that matters anymore. Exactly. When you stand in front of a firing squad, theoretical debates about utopian society just vanish. He emerged from that experience with a frantic, desperate attention to the human soul. He realized that life is incredibly short, it's constantly fragile, and therefore there's just no time for polite evasions.
Which explains so much about his novels. If you actually survive a firing squad, I imagine you have absolutely zero tolerance for people complaining about their lukewarm coffee or,
No.
like, superficial social gossip.
None at all.
So is that why Krieger says Dostoevsky completely rejects our modern idea of the comfortable room?
Precisely. After that experience, every single human face Dostoevsky looked at was the face of someone who was also going to die.
Wow.
That is why his characters don't just have polite drawing room conversations. They fling themselves at each other. They scream, they confess, they collapse. He wrote with the urgency of a man who felt the firing squad could basically reassemble at any moment.
And Kriger says modern life tries desperately to ignore that firing squad.
We try to put ourselves in this comfortable room where everything is logical, where suffering is just a solvable problem, and, the tea is always warm.
Yeah, we try so hard to build that room.
But Dostoevsky insists that human beings simply do not fit inside that room because we're built over that basement of unpredictable depth. And to illustrate this, Kriger uses this beautiful metaphor of kintsugi, right? The Japanese art of repairing broken pottery.
Yes, it's a profound analogy for Dostoevsky's view of human nature. In kintsugi, when a bowl is shattered, you don't throw it away or try to glue it back together seamlessly so it looks brand new.
Right, you don't hide it.
Exactly, you repair the cracks with lacquer mixed with powdered gold.
So you actively highlight the break instead of hiding it.
Yeah.
Kriger says humans are cracked vessels. And the crack isn't a defect that needs to be photoshopped out of your life. The crack is the design. It is the exact place where the truth gets out.
Because Dostoevsky doesn't care about perfect, unbothered people. Right, because they're an illusion. He only cares about the ones who went through the fire and survived, taking some massive damage along the way.
Because that damage, that golden fault line, it reveals the inherent division inside all of us. I mean, Dostoevsky didn't believe we are unified, finished masterpieces. He believed the human soul is inherently fractured and infinitely complex.
And here's where I really want to challenge something Kriger brings up in the book. Because he gives this chilling, everyday example to illustrate that fault line. He calls it the saint and the cruel.
Oh, this part is intense.
It really is. So imagine a father who comes home, patiently and lovingly reads his daughter a bedtime story, kisses her forehead with genuine tenderness.
A total saint in that moment.
Right, but then immediately goes into the next room, opens his laptop, and writes a surgically cruel, humiliating email to a colleague, just because he has the power to do it, and then he goes to sleep with a completely clear conscience without ever noticing the transition.
That's a very stark image.
It is. But wait, normally we would just call that guy a massive hypocrite, right?
Yeah.
I read that, and my instinct is to say it's a classic Jekyll and Hyde situation.
Like he's just putting on an act.
Yeah. Like one personality takes over the other, or the tender father is just a fake persona he puts on to feel good about himself.
Well, what's fascinating here is that Kriger points out how Dostoevsky would say, you are fundamentally misunderstanding the soul if you view it that way. You are trying to put him back in a neat, logical box.
Okay, so how does he see it?
The soul is not a single room with one piece of furniture. It's a vast, unmapped landscape.
So you're saying the saint and the cruel guy aren't just taking turns?
They aren't taking turns, and they aren't neighbors. They're roommates sharing the exact same breath.
Oh.
Yeah, that father is not a hypocrite in Dostoevsky's eyes. Both the profound, genuine tenderness for his daughter and the calculated, sadistic cruelty toward his colleague are completely 100% real at the exact same time.
That is wild.
Judgment fails in Dostoevsky's world because people aren't fixed categories. We are a constant simultaneous negotiation between light and dark. You are always standing on all of that terrain at once.
I find that deeply unsettling. I mean, it means the absolute most loving person you know is actively capable of terrible harm, but I guess it also means the most damaged, cruel person retains a buried real capacity for immense tenderness.
Exactly. It destroys our ability to simply write people off. It forces us to acknowledge our own capacity for both extremes.
So if human nature is this vast, contradictory, unmanageable landscape, what actually governs it? Because you can't just have chaos. And this brings us to the book's central and honestly terrifying concept, which is absolute free will.
This raises an important question because when we usually talk about freedom today, we talk about it as a pure positive. We talk about liberation, empowerment, being your true self.
But Kriger describes Dostoevsky's view of pure freedom not as liberation, but as vertigo.
Vertigo, yes.
Imagine standing at the edge of an immense cliff or in an endless open field. There are no fences. There are no guardrails. There's no one to tell you what to do. You have the absolute freedom to go anywhere and do anything, including the absolute worst things imaginable. That isn't a beach vacation. That's terrifying.
It's a crushing psychological weight.
Yeah.
And to allow this absolute freedom, Dostoevsky presents a theological concept of the God who suffers. Now, Kriger unpacks this deeply. This God steps back and refuses to intervene. He refuses to stop humans from making terrible, destructive choices.
Which is The classic problem of evil, right? Like, why doesn't God just stop the bad things from happening?
Exactly. But Dostoevsky's answer is that a God who swoops in to stop every bad act is essentially a manager, not a loving creator.
Okay, I see.
It's like a parent watching a teenager make a terrible, life-altering mistake. You could lock that teenager in their room forever to keep them perfectly safe, but to let them actually grow into a real human being, you have to let them choose.
You have to let them make the mistake.
Right. And standing back, watching them crash the car, knowing you could have stopped it, but choosing not to so they could be free. That is the suffering. Love that is compelled or forced by a lack of alternatives, it simply isn't love at all.
So freedom requires the possibility of absolute ruin.
Yes.
The danger, Kriger argues, is when people feel that vertigo of freedom and try to escape it. And one way we escape it is by using pure, cold logic. That is what Kriger calls the reasonable hell, and he points directly to the character of Raskolnikov from Crime and Punishment.
Raskolnikov is the perfect embodiment of this.
No, because Raskolnikov's murder of the pawnbroker, it wasn't a crime of passion.
Not at all.
It wasn't a fit of rage or a mugging gone wrong. It was a perfectly calculated mathematical equation. Can you explain the mechanism of how Raskolnikov justified that?
Yeah, so Raskolnikov used a utilitarian calculus. He looks at this pawnbroker, right? An old woman who is cruel, who hoards her wealth, who abuses her sister. And he looks at the rest of society. Hundreds of starving families, brilliant students who can't afford to eat. So he runs the math. If he kills this one vile woman, he can take her hoarded money and save 100 lives.
So one life traded for 100.
Exactly. It makes perfect logical sense on paper.
But Dostoevsky shows us why that logic is a complete trap. Reason, when it is cut off from the human heart, becomes a tyrant. It justifies the unjustifiable. As soon as Raskolnikov swings the axe, the math completely collapses, and he's just plunged into a psychological hell. He realizes you cannot just cross out a human soul on a ledger.
And that leads us to the other way. Humans try to escape the vertigo of freedom. Because if we can't logic our way out of it, we try to hand our freedom over to someone else entirely.
Right.
This is the argument of the Grand Inquisitor from the Brothers Karamazov.
This is perhaps the most famous chapter Dostoevsky ever wrote. The Grand Inquisitor basically puts Jesus on trial and tells him he made a terrible mistake by giving humans free will.
Massive mistake.
Yeah, the Inquisitor wants to take away human freedom and replace it with bread, strict rules, and absolute security simply because the agony of choice is too much for people to bear. But here's where it gets really interesting. Honestly, looking at the modern world, looking at how you and I live right now, doesn't the Inquisitor have a highly valid point?
It is an incredibly seductive argument, isn't it?
I mean, think about it. We rely on algorithms to tell us what movies to watch on Netflix, what products to buy, who we should swipe right on to date, what routes to drive to work.
We let them decide everything.
We really do. We have AI life coaches and endless streams of curated content. Aren't we practically begging for someone or something to manage our choices so we don't have to face that endless, terrifying field of options?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, Kriger explicitly warns that we are currently living in the Inquisitor's world.
We are.
We have willingly traded the messy, dangerous risk of actual freedom for efficient, algorithmically optimized management. It reduces our anxiety. It makes things predictable. We get the bread, and we don't have to think.
We've basically traded our souls for a really good thermostat. We've returned to the comfortable room, but we've locked the door from the inside and handed the key to a tech company.
Precisely. But Kriger argues, channeling Dostoevsky, that a managed life, no matter how painless, how entertained, or how comfortable it is completely devoid of true love and true meaning.
Because there's no choice.
Exactly. By eliminating the risk of making the wrong choice, we completely eliminate the profound, soul-shaking weight of making the right one. You cannot have a programmed resurrection.
Okay, so we're boxed into a serious corner here. If pure logic turns us into murderers with calculators and managed algorithmic comfort turns us into mindless pets in a cage, what does Kriger's book actually offer as a lifeline? Is this just pure nihilism?
No, it's not.
Then how are you and I supposed to survive this vertigo without shutting down completely?
The answer Dostoevsky provides is almost shocking in its simplicity, really. And it completely bypasses the intellect. It isn't a grand philosophical counterargument. It is simply presence.
Presence, like just being there.
Yes. Just being there. Kriger highlights this unbelievable moment with Ivan Karamazov. Ivan presents what many consider the ultimate, unanswerable argument against God, which is the suffering of an innocent child. the tear of a child.
It is a devastating argument. Ivan basically says, imagine a future utopian world of perfect harmony. But the admission ticket to that perfect world is that one innocent child must be tortured in a basement.
Right.
Ivan asks his brother, Alyosha, if he would accept the ticket on those terms, and Ivan says, I wouldn't. I return my ticket. He uses perfect, airtight logic to show that no cosmic harmony is worth the suffering of a child.
And how does Alyosha, who is a monk in training, respond to this brilliant atheist logic?
Right, what does he do?
He doesn't offer a theological debate. He doesn't try to outlogic him, because any logical system that tries to justify the torture of a child sounds instantly cold and monstrous. Alyosha simply leans forward and kisses his brother on the lips.
Oh, wow. It's such a profound pivot. You literally cannot argue with the tear. Alyosha's kiss is a total refusal to explain the pain logically, combined with a total refusal to abandon the person feeling it.
It's the exact same dynamic with Sonia and Raskolnikov in Crime and Punishment.
Yeah.
After Raskolnikov commits the murder, he is spiritually dead. He is rotting inside his own guilt.
Yeah.
And Sonia doesn't save him by lecturing him on ethics. She doesn't give him a moral framework. She simply sits with him in his dark, suffocating room and reads the Gospel of Lazarus to him.
And the choice of Lazarus is crucial here, right? Because Lazarus wasn't just sick, he was dead. He was in the tomb, rotting.
Exactly. It's the mechanism of resurrection from the absolute abyss. Sonia's essentially saying, I see that you are dead inside, that you have murdered your own soul, and I'm going to sit right here in the tomb with you until you are ready to come out.
It's an offering of pure companionship in the abyss.
Yes, exactly.
Kriger actually drives this home with an incredibly moving personal anecdote in the book. He talks about seeing a little girl in a park who fell down, badly scraped her knee, and was just sobbing.
I remember this part.
Yeah, and the parents were rushing over, probably going to say, oh, you're fine, let's put a bandage on it, stop crying. But before they got there, a little boy, a total stranger, walked over and wordlessly knelt beside her on the grass.
He didn't even say anything?
He didn't ask what was wrong. He didn't try to fix the knee. He didn't look for an adult. He just placed his hand on her arm and shared the pain until it passed. And then he stood up and walked away.
That is the absolute essence of Dostoevskian compassion right there. It is not an ethical duty. It is not a 5-step plan to solve a problem. It is an instinctive dissolution of the boundary between yourself and another person.
So what does this all mean? I think it means the opposite of loneliness isn't just having company around. The opposite of loneliness is compassion.
Well said.
You do not have to fix the person's problem. You don't need to give them a motivational speech. Just refusing to leave the room when they are in pain is the most radical philosophical stance you can take.
That synthesizes it beautifully. I mean, in Dostoevsky's world, redemption isn't a legal transaction. It isn't a cosmic balancing of the scales where you do enough good deeds to pay off your moral debts.
Right.
Redemption is the voluntary acceptance of another's pain. It is the willingness to stay. Modern progress says we can fix the world by changing the systems outside of us. Better laws, better tech, better management.
But Dostoevsky disagrees.
Completely. Dostoevsky says true resurrection only ever happens when we undergo a total internal collapse of our pride and find someone willing to sit with us in the rubble.
Which brings us to Kriger's ultimate takeaway, pointing this entire deep dive right back to you, the listener. After examining all this trauma, all this vertigo, and all this profound compassion, Kriger boils the book down to this one terrifying, beautiful phrase. Save the human being. They do not know they are God.
And we must be clear, this isn't some New Age mysticism. It is a radical anthropological stance.
What does that look like in daily life, though?
It means that every single person you meet, the friend who let you down, the colleague who sent that cruel email, the stranger who cuts you off in traffic, they carry an infinite, terrifying capacity for both total destruction and divine love.
We're so quick to judge.
We are.
Yeah.
We are all asleep to our own enormity. We treat each other as obstacles to be managed or like categories to be sorted, completely forgetting that there's an entire, infinite, wild landscape inside the person standing right in front of us.
Because we are so incredibly busy managing our comfortable rooms, adjusting the thermostat of our lives, that we ignore the profound cracked vessels walking all around us.
Exactly.
Kriger argues that true freedom requires the constant, dizzying risk of choosing the dark. And true love means standing by those who do, without judgment, just waiting for them in the tomb. So, we want to leave you with a lingering thought to mull over as you go about the rest of your day, as you look at your own life.
A very challenging thought.
Truly, how much of your own carefully constructed, perfectly managed, comfortable room are you willing to dismantle today? just to truly see the complex, cracked person sitting right next to you.
It's a terrifying draft to let in under the floorboards. But according to Dostoevsky, it might be the only way to truly breathe.